So, this is a discussion that we had at the mental fitness community. And the topic of the evening was trust, truth, and honesty. Our ability to communicate how we feel honestly and clearly, and to have it received without judgment, is one of the most effective therapeutic processes known. It is the root of talk therapy and the Roman Catholic confessional. The principles of this are also very powerful in our own lives in respect of nourishing our own mental landscape and helping us to develop healthy and effective relationships with those around us. Conversely, when we're unable to express ourselves honestly and effectively so that it might be received without judgment, it can seriously impact our mental state as well as our key relationships. But expressing ourselves both honestly and skillfully is the key, and it isn't as easy as we might like to think. But why? As children, we learn quickly that our truth of the moment isn't always well received, nor does simple, impulsive honesty go down well with other adults or children we're seeking to integrate with. So we learn to withhold our truth and tell untruths, which we quickly find cut us an easier pathway through life. The problem is we can rely on this skill too readily because it becomes so well practiced and don't always see the necessity to invest the not inconsiderable resources required to develop the ability to tell the truth skillfully. And telling the truth skillfully is the rub here. Life is full of cold, hard truths, many of which we would rather not face, even though face them we should. However, that does not mean that truth delivered with the subtlety of a brick is going to be received. There's no shortage of examples of those professing and amply demonstrating to hold their emotions to be more important than empirical evidence or scientific proof. Whilst the moment of direct felt experience, this is subjectively true, the long term consequences for themselves and others impacted by a world in which too much weight is given to emotion is likely to be less positive. On the flip side to this emotionally biased view, the rational standpoint is that truth, or perhaps more accurately, facts, are unequivocally more important than how we feel about them. But failing to factor the emotional landscape of our audience means we invite conflict and resistance to pertinent information. We all know those who are not skillful with the truth. In all likelihood, we might be one of those people more often than we might like to admit. We hit people with the truth that we feel they need to hear because truth we want to deliver is more important than their feelings. So, how do we become more skillful in our use of the truth? Two-time world debate champion and author of the book Good Arguments, Bo So, uses a model he calls the RISA framework. This is disagreement real or a misunderstanding? Is it important enough to be worth investigating? Is it specific enough for all parties to understand what is being put forward? And are the parties aligned in their objectives to move forward towards some kind of resolution? So, with this model in mind, step one could be to learn to skillfully navigate our own emotional landscape. We have to be able to recognize our own patterns and triggers and be able to apply restraint to certain situations. If we can't have a difficult conversation without getting overwhelmed by our emotions, then it is unfair to expect others to manage the inevitably one way engagement, which will be the consequence. Step two is to develop our communication skills to ensure that people are receiving the information we intend to give as best as possible. This means using an appropriate vocabulary for our audience, inviting partnership and collaboration rather than seeking to win points over the other. It's well worth considering priming statements to open complicated engagements to prepare the other that the topic will probably be challenging and likely prickly, but it is approached from a position of genuine love and a desire to improve the current position. We can't guarantee this will result in a reciprocal engagement, but in my practice, it is the most reliable approach that I've found. Step three is more of a condition, and it's already alluded to above. We should be approaching truth from a position of love. Love should be superordinate to truth, so that truth is being delivered for the correct intentions and in the best way possible. This cannot be a point scoring exercise born of insecurities or desire to simply assert dominance. That route invites conflict and collapse of the relationships and a cessation of any desire to explore the truth further. So, speaking honestly requires self awareness as well as the ability to empathize with the points of view of others. It requires the ability to study our more complicated desires so that we develop the skill required to articulate our position. And it requires courage to risk not being received well, to not being able to articulate ourselves as well as we might first time. But this is a skill that we should all work harder to nourish and develop. It will have a truly transformational and enhancing impact on the relationship we have with ourselves and with those around us. So, the invitation now, if you will, is to take some time to reflect on this in the context of your own life and see where you might make the first steps forwards towards a more skillfully honest future. Thanks for listening.